Everyone, hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday. Sorry for my couple minutes of tardiness. Just kind of going through some things over the last few days. Wanted to spend some time, talk about some of the customer service issues that you guys may be dealing with, talk about resolution on those and how we might be able to give you some appropriate guidance in fixing them. You know, a lot of the issues that we're seeing are starting to diminish. I know that that probably doesn't sound appropriate based on what your experience is, but we are seeing a drop-off in some of the customer service issues. We have been speaking with leadership at Florida Blue about it, and we'll talk more about that as we get into today's call. As we begin, I did get, Gigi got the leaderboard for 2016, the top 100 qualifiers. So what you see on your screen right now is the top agencies. Those are the top 30 agencies within the state, and you will see the counts. And I want to, congratulate those of you that are on this call. I've highlighted you guys in yellow. Congratulations for being a qualifier. Martin Shetfield, James Nichols, Pauline, great job. Robert and his team over at Accurate, also a phenomenal job. And then, of course, we have the Ola Doctor group with the Park City Insurance. So great job overall. A and B for 2016 ended up in total points as number 2. Just got squeaked out there by a couple thousand points. Not really anything too big of a deal. But overall, we know that we did everything the right way. We had a great year overall. And we'll continue to have a good year this year. 2017, although it feels like it has been going on forever. We are now in the mindset of prepping and being ready for 2017 enrollment for the 2018 effective dates. So, you guys are all going to be qualifying. They're going to have the group meeting that's going to be in St. Pete. You guys will get your invitations for that. We have our agent qualifiers as well. We have a lot of participation at A and B and your teams as well as agent qualifiers. So congratulations to all. I mean, you guys did a great job overall. And let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the future and really what do we need to be concerned about? What are some of the points that we need to be a little nervous, and where should we be really happy? Well, to be really happy, we should understand that all of the changes that legislation is talking about, everything that they're going through, really doesn't have an effectiveness on this open enrollment. Now, there is going to be one key strategy that's probably going to change this year, and that's going to be a 45-day enrollment season. So, we need to be prepared in building our teams and building everything that we're doing. Yes, I'm talking about building and getting ready for next year already, because if we're pigeonholed into a 45-day enrollment season, which will align exactly into the, some people are saying no audio. Does everybody else have audio, or am I just talking to myself? Does anybody have audio? Just let's be clear. Okay. Okay, perfect. If one person does, then everybody else does. All right. Sorry about that, everybody. It's just prepping for what's going to happen in this upcoming enrollment. Now, in the infinite wisdom of the government, CMS, and all that they do so wonderfully, they have proposed over the last couple of years of moving to a 45-day enrollment. And that looks like that's going to stick. And this year, they're probably going to install that 45-day enrollment, and that's going to align exactly with our Medicare enrollment. So this is when you're going to really need to think about your teams, think about how your teams are separated, and making sure, yeah, I did say separated because it's going to be really difficult to be effective at both. This comes from a training perspective, and this also comes with just sheer time. We didn't have enough time before. So with this change, we are, obviously pushing Florida Blue to make changes, pushing lobbyists to make those changes to extend that enrollment season or change it. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. The CMS, the government is really locked and loaded into making it a 45-day enrollment. So it makes things very challenging in how we prepare. With the other changes that they're talking about, those changes are and can be major, affecting what we do. from a price perspective, from how the subsidies are tallied, how the rates are, tallied as well. All things that hopefully when we get through this, on the other side, we can alleviate some pressure from the marketplace as an enrollment platform, and maybe we'll go back to more traditional enrollment platforms. But again, a lot of that stuff, those big changes like, what are the benefits? Are we going to move from a 3-to-1 ratio from a 60-year-old to a 20-year-old to a 5-to-1 ratio, which would effectively raise the rates for our seniors or for older folks? I wouldn't say seniors because I watch these AARP commercials and they talk a lot about how it affects our seniors. Well, it would affect those individuals 55 to 65 adversely because those rates would go up. And, what it does do is give us a chance to give someone who is a younger individual a more affordable health plan and maybe get them involved a little bit quicker and, give them the opportunity to get involved. So, there's pros and cons to everything that you see in the bill. And as you kind of look at what they're proposing, there's no real clear answer. The real answer and the clearness is that they can't agree if they like it or not within their own political party or not. So as we get more information, I talk to leadership at Florida Blue and their people who talk to their lobbyists, often to make sure that we're kind of on the forefront of what could happen and what the potentials are. And as we look at that, we're probably going to look at a different range of product portfolio with more HSAs because they're talking about expansion of the HSA tax credit that you can utilize. So, we're going to have to sit back and see. And I know a lot of agents get nervous and a lot of agencies get nervous as well. But this year, we should still be the 8,000-pound gorilla in Florida Blue. We're really pushing Florida Blue to make sure that they pay a renewal commission that doesn't necessarily have to be an active renewal. That way we can maintain our business, and that number has to be very good this year because it's going to take a lot of work to keep our business, to keep people happy and keep them engaged, especially with all of the customer service that we know that everybody has been doing. So, try and set your teams at ease, make sure everybody's comfortable knowing that we're going to keep on pushing forward, and with change is going to come opportunity. And the minute that you forget that and you start falling into the hole of Facebook and certain news channels where woe is me, the sky is falling, everything is going to fall apart, is the minute that you begin to lose your edge on embracing change as opportunity. And if we look at history, which we have to learn from history, when the Affordable Care Act was released, there was a lot of agencies that got out of the business and said, oh, this is never going to work. I'm going to be out of business. You're going to have navigators. You're not going to need us anymore. Just as if you look back to 2006, a lot of people who were selling individual health said, oh, I sell Medicare. I'm going to be out of business. And now Medicare Advantage is the way that many people make their living. So it's your ability to adapt to these changes, making sure that we can communicate these changes clearly to our clients and to our prospects because they're going to be very confused because remember, the typical average person is just going to look at Facebook to get their news, which is just scary in itself. It's just craziness, I say. So let's talk a little bit about customer service and what we're dealing with because now is more than the time than ever for when you have to embrace your client base. Make sure that you have your arm around them. You're talking to them about ancillary products. You're talking about them about other protection that they need, so you're staying engaged. With all of the, lack of a better word, crap that a lot of our customers have gone through, and it is a small segment, but it feels much larger, we do have to make sure that we are keeping in constant communication with our client base. So I know many of you use Constant Contact or some sort of email marketing, but making sure that you're reaching out to these members on a quarterly basis, if you're not doing that already, is something that you must, at this time, with all of the changes that are going on, must engage your client base with more than ever. Now, some of you may say, well, they don't want to hear from me. They're not going to read their emails. They do. When we look at open rates of our email marketing and our email communications with newsletters that we do to our client base, the open rate is very strong, higher than any other marketing opportunity that you will do. And because of that, I think that it's important that you set a schedule for your teams and you set a schedule for your email marketing to reach out to these members. Because when we're looking at this and we're talking about, keeping them up to date on changes, with things like the 45-day enrollment window that will align with Medicare, October the 15th through December 7th, we are not going to have very much time for pleasantries during that period. And those individuals that want to change their plan, those individuals that want to update because we have network changes, you making sure that you're keeping in touch with them is how you're going to make that easier. Other tools that we've used that a lot of people have scoffed at and said, oh, I don't need that, is going to be tools like a booking account. We spoke about during this open enrollment something called You Book Me, which is an online web platform where your clients can go and book your time and book your team's time. So these things are very important to embrace technology and to make sure that you're able to run at the speed that you need to. But also, just to set your mind at ease, is when we looked at the sheer numbers, about 70% of our business was written in that 45-day window. And really, the things that happened after that 45-day window were not as fierce, okay? There were, we still wrote new business, but we spent a lot of that time fixing after December the 15th, if you guys recall. And we didn't have a lot of new business stragglers as we really hoped for. We at our agency did, because we focused on that, and that was our sheer focus, was new business. The renewals, as they came through, it just wasn't as much of a focus for A and B, and rightfully so, because that was the only way that we were going to write all of the new business. Because if we focus solely on renewals, obviously we would not survive financially. So, I want to urge everybody to do that. Right now, what we're seeing is, we talked a little bit last week about the APO pause. So I want to talk a little bit about the APO pause. I want to talk a little bit about some of the customer service issues specific that you guys may be experiencing, so we could talk about appropriate resolutions. So as we know, there were a few thousand members that were paused from their APO. Those were individuals that had a marketplace plan. And that marketplace plan premium that was looking to be drafted on APO was not in line. It was outside of a 10% variant, shall we call it, of their policy premium. Now, that 10% variant on the policy premium is a loaded question, because that is the policy premium that Florida Blue is seeing. That's not the policy premium that, for example, is what the customer, they may have two policies. There could be all kinds of craziness going on there. So those people have had their APO pause. They weren't drafted. Florida Blue is doing outreach. They are, going through and, emailing those members, telling them that their APO is paused. That's the EFT for those of you that are questioning what the APO is. And then what they will do is have an opportunity to log into their member account, go check out what that bill may be, and make appropriate changes if necessary, and make payments. And that's where, you come in urging your membership, because they're going to say to you, well, where do I find out what my bill is? My best advice in that scenario is to make sure that they look in their member account. Now, why their member account is so important is because as a member account, that's where they can see other invoices. And if they got this notification that there was pause, you are going to need to engage with agent services and the member account, see if there's any invoices that are out there that need to be paid, see what needs to happen there, and get it resolved. So that's, one of the issues that we're dealing with right now. The other issue, it's one of those mornings, very cold today, that we're dealing with is provider relations. So many of you that are doing business in South Florida, the Palm Beach area, Orlando, Tampa, well, hell, just the major markets in itself, and your customers had purchased the MyBlue products, some of them are experiencing challenges getting into their primary care doctor. Now, with that, what we've been doing is, there are some people that are just calling now. They're being told they have to wait a month, to get services. and waiting a month in some cases is just not acceptable. When that happens, my advice is to get on the phone with agent services, explain the situation to them, because Florida Blue leadership is aware of it. They know that there are people having a hard time that need medical services, and if they are getting turned away because they're a new member and they need to go see a specialist due to a condition, obviously not just a checkup, but something more serious, report it to agent services, have them call the physician's office and see if there's anything that can be done to squeeze them in. Because obviously these people cannot always wait 2 months or 3 months. Now, granted, they should have been making that appointment in January if it was so important, but sometimes these things come up. Now, what we're getting a lot of is we're getting people that are saying, well, when we did the enrollment, I didn't care about my network, I didn't care about my doctor, I didn't care about this. Now all of a sudden they have to use the policy, and now it's a problem. So how do we fix that? How do we change that? How can I effectuate an SEP, or how can I get someone to change their network when there really isn't one SEP? Well, there is a loophole that you guys need to know about, so that way when you are going through, you can change their policy. Now, this is not an illegal function or anything like that. This is just the way that you can work the system in order to make the change at this point in time. So let's say, for example, you've enrolled someone on a My Blue or a Blue Select. They're having problems getting services, customer service nightmare, and they want to make changes they want to change their network. Well, your typical answer is going to be no. Now, if that member has a subsidy and they have an active policy, you actually have a reason or a way that you can change their network. And that's by changing the income or disclosing a different income to get them into a Blue Options or Blue Select, or just change their network. And that effective change is going to be an income change that is going to change their variant on the policy. So for example, Gigi calls me and she's irate. She's not happy because she bought a My Blue. She's been waiting to get into her primary care doctor and she can't see them. She calls me swearing, yelling, throwing things. And we have a resolution. So she's on a 1443C right now, for example, on a Blue Select. And we want to change her. So what we can do is we can go out to the marketplace and we can raise her income. If we raise her income from the C to a B variant, then what will happen is, of course, Ms. DeFalco is going to have to understand that she's going to pay more. She's not going to be happy about that, because not only is she going to get less subsidy, but she's also going to pay more, because she's going to have to switch to a different network, which is going to be more expensive in this example. So if she wanted to go to Blue Options, not only is she going to have the burden of the expense of switching the network to Blue Options, but she's also going to get less subsidy, because the only way for you to make that change is to go from a C to a B. If she was on a B, you could go down to a C and not use all of the subsidy as well. Or if she was on a standard plan, get her into an A to a standard plan. There has to be enough of an income change to change the variant of the plan. Then once that change goes into force, and remember, an income change, if you do it today, is not going to go in force until 5/1. Because we are on the 16th of the month, after the 15th, that income change is not going to effectuate for 4/1, but will effectuate for 5/1. Okay? So what you can do is, after that policy effectuates in May, then you could, of course, change it back to the other variant based upon the customer's needs. And there may be too much subsidy that is received if you don't adjust it, because as we know, if we went from a B variant to a C variant, I don't need to use all of the subsidy when I get back into Blue Cross. So when I return to the issuer website, I can adjust that dial to make sure that you make that move in a change of income. So that way you don't use all that subsidy and therefore effectively keep them in right as rain. Get the customer what they want, make sure that they're happy, and then, of course, alleviates your customer service burden. Now, this is not an option for off marketplace, obviously, because there is no income change on there. Now, so that is going to be an issue for those off marketplace individuals. So it is important that you understand that. So you can fix some things. So other things that we're experiencing of fixes are going to be inactive policies or people that are getting money returned from Florida Blue. Well, yesterday I had a conversation with leadership, and they've identified about 7,500 cases that fall into a scenario where we terminated somebody's plan and sent them back a check. And we weren't supposed to. Because of all the guidance that we have been given and all the guidance that we've been talking about, is if the member has made an attempt to pay, provided APO, done all of the things that they need to do, we should not be terminating their policy. And now we are getting agent services, and we're getting HIX escalations that are being refused. So I've been standing on my little soapbox, stomping my feet like a little baby, saying, you're not following the rules. I feel like the kid in the playground who's getting beat up, because I am. And we're finally going to start to follow those business rules, and they're going to adjust those people. They're going to reinstate those cases and give those people the opportunity to pay if they'd like to. And they're going to start an outreach for those individuals as well. Because in most of the cases that we're finding that people are terminated, termination is not at the fault of the member. It is typically one of two scenarios that we're really identifying more and more. Scenario number one is going to be people who had two policies noted on the marketplace because either of the way that the agent processed it, the way that the customer processed it. And that means that you were out on the marketplace, they ended up with two policies, they come back, only one of them has advanced premium tax credit, but the marketplace, in their infinite wisdom, terminated both policies. So they sent termination notices via the 834 file to Blue Cross, to whereas at that point, now they've got nothing. Blue Cross says, okay, marketplace is telling us to terminate their file. They have to do what the marketplace says. Oh, well, we have some money for them. Let's send them back their money. Now, in the meantime, while all this is going on in the background, people are they're having service issues, and that's when they're calling you, or that's when you're dealing with it and trying to resolve it. So hopefully by Friday, these cases will be fixed and reinstated, and those people will be able to get services. Now, obviously, they're going to have to get payment. They're going to have to get caught up if that's what they want, and we're going to have to get that fixed. Now, what happens if you identify one of these cases and, on non-active on Blue Cross, active on the marketplace? What do I do? I've got the wrong effective date. Well, most of the times after you call agent services, if you're not getting an appropriate result that makes a whole lot of sense, really the next step is if you identify it's a marketplace issue because you know the customer paid, you know that they did everything that they needed to do, you're going to want to open up a HIX escalation. And we know the process for the HIX escalation, as everyone should know way too well, is going to be contacting the marketplace, opening that HIX escalation, reporting the problem, calling back 2 to 3 days later, getting the HIX escalation number, recording that, and then communicating with Florida Blue about the resolution. Because Florida Blue will communicate directly back to the member about the resolution. But if you want to be in the loop, the only way you're going to get in the loop is by calling agent services. So there's a lot of that going on. And really, the provider issues fall into one bucket, the billing issues fall into another bucket, and the billing issues and communication, they're kind of mixed and they're pouring back and forth with each other. So nobody wants to keep, and take final responsibility for it. And I'd say it's probably about a 60-40 split, 60% of the issues being caused by our friends at Florida Blue and their billing department, and 40% by the marketplace. And if you ask Florida Blue that, they'll probably say it's the other way around, or 70-30, but not, in the marketplace being more damaging. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that we're dealing with it. We're going on a case-by-case basis. We've gotten, several cases that you guys as a team have sent to us. that need medical needs, and we're addressing them as soon as we can get them and trying to get these people services and get them fixed, and typically we're able to get them resolved. The off-marketplace stuff that's been getting fixed without a hitch, no problems on that. It's just a matter of going through the process and really working through it. So other than that, what other questions or customer service issues have been challenging? Because the last thing I want to talk about is upload of documents and people who have missed documents and how we're going to address that. Peter's got a question. Is Florida Blue asking for SEP documentation for off-marketplace plans? So the answer is yes, but you don't have to provide it until they ask for it. So that makes me very nervous, and you have to be very conscious about that, because here's the way that I think it would play out. If you're trying to juxtapose the system, that is a problem, because if the member ends up with significant medical claim, I am going to make the assumption that Florida Blue is going to ask you for the documentation. And that's playing a deadly game of Russian roulette with your license and the person's livelihood. Because if you are enrolling the member and they don't have a true SEP, or it's gray, shall we call it, and you go through off-marketplace, enroll the member, but you don't have the documentation, and that person ends up ending up with some rare form of cancer or something along those lines. My personal belief is as the medical claims increase is when they start doing that research, because they're not going to get it for little Johnny who's running to the doctor. But if you end up enrolling a family and the child ends up with major medical claims, I would assume, and this is just my assumption, I may be way off base, that they're going to, at that point, ask you for the documentation. And it is your duty, it's part of your responsibility to hold that documentation until requested. So I would make sure that you have it. I'd have it in an electronic format. I would hold it. You can upload it with the application if you'd like, but it's not necessary. It's your duty to hold that documentation until requested. So be very careful with that. Hold the documentation, and then we go from there. Question coming in. I have clients that are on EFT from Florida Blue, and Florida Blue is double drafting payments on the same policies. Then we have to try and get either their second payment applied to the next month or a refund. That is correct. So I don't know if there's a question on there, but I don't know how many clients you're experiencing double drafts with. We've seen a big diminish in that, but that would be something that you're going to want to resolve. And the best way for you to resolve that, Martha, is to remove them off of APO completely. And make sure that you get a reference number for removing them off APO completely until they get it resolved. Now, if they're double drafting payments, but it's on the same policy, then they should be having a credit. So you're going to want to do some research to make sure that there aren't past premiums that were due, because maybe that's why they drafted a higher amount. Pardon me. Hopefully that's clear for you. All right, so let me open it up to any other customer service questions or issues that you guys may be having. Is there any complicated cases that you're dealing with? I know that we've worked with a few of you. Matt, I don't know if he's on the call today, got a bunch of his stuff resolved. Right now what my advice to everybody is to get into search accounts, get into temporary ID cards, make sure that you're getting paid on all of your business, make sure that your policies are all effectuated. We've noticed a lot, and I mean a lot of policies that agents wrote that never went in force. And if you don't know that, you may be looking for that commission. So make sure that you're reaching out to those members. Make sure that you're looking for temporary ID cards for every one of your policies. And no, if there's no temporary ID card, if they're not in search accounts, they probably don't have a policy, because anybody can search anybody's temporary ID cards. So you could look up a temporary ID card for me if you knew my name and date of birth. So know that you can, you get to check those things, and then go through your block of business. If you wrote 3,000 policies, you should check 3,000 policies and make sure that every one of them is issued, so you know what to hunt down from Florida Blue for commissions, because you're going to be having to hunt down your commissions from Florida Blue ongoing for the next few months, making sure that they were tied to the correct AOR. Did you get your active renewal? And the only way by doing that, quite honestly, is going one by one by one by one. Pain in the ass, but not really any other way you can do it. Because search accounts is not 100% accurate because of the AOR mix-ups. We know that temporary D cards are accurate if they have an active policy at the time you're searching. All right. Well, everybody's been very quiet today. So we don't have any questions, no issues that we want to talk about as a group? All right, you guys are letting me off easy today. So hopefully next week we'll have some more information on these reinstatements. I'm still probably got a slew of questions from leadership that are still open-ended. So let us know if you've got any questions. Let Gigi know if you're having some serious issues with customer service that you can't resolve. You've done everything that you think is necessary. Communicate that to Mr. Falco so we can get it up to leadership. Again, if you're getting network problems, the same kind of thing, report them to agent services. If you're not getting anywhere, let us know. Well, with no other questions, I'm going to let everybody have a great day today. Enjoy. And Gigi has sent everyone emails, so that's how you email Gigi, Gigi at abifg.com. And if you have any questions, let us know. Thanks, everybody, for the day, and we'll talk to you soon. Congratulations to all those that made the top 30 agencies. Have a great day.